Okay, right. This is where it all begins. This is the press conference for the new 570S McLaren. I'm so excited that my face has gone all unexcited. That might be something to do with the fact that I've been travelling for days and I hate press conferences. Anyhow, they're going to tell us it's a bit bigger and a bit longer and a bit cheaper, but really we just want to drive thing, so we'll suffer this, and I'll probably be a bit cheeky and stick the camera in people's faces to annoy them. There's some real characters here from the motoring journalist scene, but I won't inflict them on you. That's Neil.
Right, come and have a look at this new toy then. Here it is, in its splendour, the 570S. The first thing you need to know is that despite it being the little car in the range and it looking smaller than a 650S, it's actually a little bit bigger because the roofline's a bit lower and it's a bit wider. It actually looks smaller, and that's because of the clever packaging and some of the clever panel work at the back here. So what have we got? Well, about 1,440 kilograms wet. That is really, really impressive and much lighter than, I suppose, the competition. What is the competition? I suppose right at this moment it's perhaps a GT3, perhaps an R8 V10, something like that. Let's have a look inside quickly, come on. Okay, first things to note, this is obviously working on McLaren's carbon fibre monocell. This is monocell 2 as they call it, and the key thing is that this bit here is a bit lower. That's about 85mm lower than on a 650S, so it's easier to get in and out of. Ingress and egress, they call that in the trade. So this is based around being a more practical, usable, everyday car. It may be the baby one in the range, but it still has 570 horsepower and 442 foot-pounds of torque. So yeah, it's fast with a capital F. It's a really, really fast car. Here's a good thing for all you current McLaren owners, a first world problem I know. Remember when you used to open your front deck lid and you had to fiddle about with that latch thing? Watch this now. No secondary latch. It's a revolution. There are other things to note too. The brakes on the 570 are carbon ceramic and 394mm in diameter. The headlights are more efficient than a perpetual motion machine, and wherever you look you can peer through some hole or buttress or crevice. It's really lovely. The rubber is by Pirelli P0 Corsa, and the rears are just 285 in section. There's no locking differential, but the 650's radical linked hydraulic suspension has been replaced by conventional roll bars and adaptive dampers. McLaren reckons this leaves it feeling more connected and more conventional than its previous cars. Whatever the case, it weighs 240 kilograms less than a Mercedes AMG GT, and that's some advantage. Okay, here we are inside. I'm so little I need to move forward. This is entirely new in here, and Neil will now get some other shots to show you how great it is. I think it's fantastic. Styling is subjective, I know, but it's cosy, it's technical, it's usable, it's both sensible and titillating, and that's kind of what you want. That balance is perfect, and this new entirely electronic dashboard is superb with 3 different modes that Neil will show you that change from a sort of road setting to a sporty setting to a fully track setting that's got shift lights just like you get on a P1. Seating position I think is superb. Initially feels a bit too high, but you're bang on. Iris system, well, that now works and frankly is superb. And the hi-fi, well, yeah, it's about as good as you could hope for. So in here we have high quality, but we can talk a bit more about that later as we drive the car on the road. Come behind and have a look how little of the engine you can actually see. I need to show you this. So this is the engine lid going up. Yes, isn't that impressive? You just get 2 little fillers. Luckily, there's some grills here and we can see inside. This thing propels this car to 62 miles an hour in 3.2 seconds and 125 miles an hour in about 9.5 seconds. I mean, that's really, really fast. Baby supercar territory? I don't know. It merges into one. Do you need to go any faster than this? That's a great existential question that I can't answer now. Have a look behind. We're dotting around a bit because my brain's a bit on fire today. We've been travelling a lot this week. What do you think of the styling? I really, really like it. I think they've integrated the exhaust cleverly with the diffuser. The whole thing seems more cohesive and just cleverer and, to me, prettier than any car they've made before. So I think that's a good thing. There's lots of aero going on here. So when you look at it, every car company wants to boast about, you know, function meeting form and the whole thing being symbiotic, and they cross their hands and go all gooey. But, you know, you can see what's going on. You can see that you've got air being channeled up here. You can see the grooves coming inside that wing mirror and then going over the top here and then heading down into the engine bay. You can spot where it's all working. So yeah, it's a clever piece of design, and that's the trick, because it looks like it should be a £200,000 car. It really does. So I suppose we should go and drive it and see whether it drives like a £200,000 car. The new 570S feels like what it is, a new car. Because the new 650S of a few years ago wasn't really a new car. It was kind of a slightly doctored 12C. So the nascent McLaren has now become an almost mature car company, and they have come a long, long way. So first of all, well done McLaren. What's the 570S all about? Well, as you've seen from the little tech breakdown I've given you, there are many, many changes here. Okay, the basic recipe, the tub, the engine, obviously there's some carryover bits and bobs, but I think you can call this a brand new model, and I think it's pretty stunning at the money. I keep coming back to that. For the money, what else can you do to compete with this thing? It supposedly sits in a category below cars like the 488 and obviously the 650, but it offers a performance level that's way beyond anything that's below that, and about the same as those competitors. So think Huracan, think, you know, anything around that price point, this thing will live with it. And best of all, on the road, it's really, really good. That suspension change, well, that worried me, because I spent some time in a 650S over the summer, and that sense of slight lack of connection through the fully connected hydraulic suspension has always worried me slightly. But the longer I lived with the car, the more I came to appreciate it, because it could isolate ride comfort from the rest of the package. So it could be very firm and throw support where it needed it, but on longer journeys the thing was so refined. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the time you spend driving cars like these on the road, that refinement really counts. So having thought at the New York show earlier this year when they showed us the 570S that I was over the moon that this car had a more conventional setup, springs, dampers, roll bars even, the more I lived with the 650, I was worried that the 570 might be a bit too jiggly and harsh. And I wasn't sure whether I wanted that extra sense of connection that McLaren said the car offered. Well, do you know what? I didn't need to worry so much. There are 3 damper modes. The dampers are all adjustable anyway, and there's a fully active mode. So when this car is in full supple mode, it doesn't quite have the magic carpet of the 650, but it's still miles better than a 911 turbo. It's a really comfortable car. The MVH levels are low. I mean, you can hear, I'm doing, you know, 60 miles an hour on a country road here. Everything, the ambient noise around me is low. I have a lovely low scuttle to look out of. This is a road car through and through. McLaren makes that point, and I can see why. Steering, weighting, superb. Hydraulic, a real advantage, competitive advantage for these guys, I think. I think the road holding is well judged indeed. You get a good amount of understeer, but not too much. And if you want to, you can let the rear move around a bit. Remember, this still has an open differential, but there's so much trickery going on that, frankly, sometimes it feels like it has got a locker out back. Engine. Well, that's interesting. One of my colleagues, who I asked, who'd driven it a few days before me, I said, does it feel quick? He went, no, not really. It doesn't feel anything like as quick as a 650S. Well, do you know what? What they've done is they've mapped the motor to obviously have less power and everything, but everything builds more sensibly and more progressively, so you don't get that massive slug of torque that makes you go, whoa, that you do in the 650. But if you think about it and concentrate the way it's moving between 6 and 8, it's a really, really fast car. I'd say beyond 911 Turbo S fast once it gets rolling. It doesn't have the traction, obviously, to give that all-weather kind of boom out of every second gear corner, but this is fast. They've done a lot of work on the manifold, as we said, to give different engine noise, but the majority of that is for your spectators to enjoy. In here, it sounds pretty generic McLaren, i.e. very flat plain. You know, it's not an inspirational noise, but it's not an unpleasant noise either. The cabin, an utter triumph. That's the first time we can say that of a cabin, excluding the P1 from McLaren. I just think this is just superb, this cabin. The iris system works, really does work. The nav really works. And there's a Bowers & Wilkins hi-fi with a sort of tweeter up here that looks lovely, that's optional and sounds really rather good. This is a car you could use every single day of the week and you would really thoroughly enjoy it. What are the downsides? Well, I'm trying to think about those quite hard. Well, it doesn't sound that spectacular, I suppose. And not everyone will like the styling. And it does have some lag. After driving the 488 earlier this week, that just feels immediate in its throttle response. And this doesn't quite match that. But you know what? I like the boost. I like the surge. The gear shifts, even in the fastest gear shift mode, are not as quick as Ferrari's, I have to say, but they're not far off, and you don't really feel shortchanged. And now, of course, you get the big P1 carbon paddles rather than those little mouse's ears that we used to have on the 650. So on the road, yes, I'm struggling, because on the road, I've not pushed hard enough to find where the understeer really begins to creep and where the chassis balance is, because it's just so competent in those conditions. So we probably need to go to a circuit, which I know is slightly irrelevant because this is supposed to be a street car. Let it move around a bit and then we can talk about this chassis a bit more and see what's going on. Haven't got too many laps to sort this out. Portimao, we're quite familiar with the place. What is this road-oriented McLaren all about? Genuinely, I'm straight out of the pits now, so I've not been doing loads of laps. Well, initially feels really nicely up on its toes. It's not a grip car, clearly, but it's got the ability to move at both axles. Straight away you sense that, but it does turn in nicely. Steering is just really, really pleasant, I have to say. And it's got this sort of suggestion of yaw the whole time. Every time you sort of put the car into a turn, it feels like it wants to just oversteer a bit into it. How strange, how different to the McLaren that we used to know when they did the 12C. It's mega. What a great circuit Portimao is. This is a McLaren that has nothing to do with lap times. It's the first time they've really given us a car where they've just said, we don't care about the lap time, we want it to be fun to drive. Well, I'll tell you what, their ESC man has done a lovely job. It's just floaty and pleasant, and it really is getting on with the job in terms of speed as well. It's fast car. Oh yeah, it's getting light. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. This is mega. Down the main street. God, it was trying to oversteer there as well. This thing is a proper little fun car. Will it stop from, oh, that's quite, yeah, that's about as much as you'd want from there. Oh, boys, your ESC calibration people have done a great job. Have you noticed that every time I put the car into a turn, it just starts to want to rotate? Yes, 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 yes. Brakes good, brake feel good, steering good. Grip is really well balanced front to rear as well. There we go, that's now off. Everything's off. That's supposed to be a new thing about this car. It has a button which just says off, but it took a bit of going off. So, what's this? Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. That's a bit of fun. What a lovely balanced car. What's it like through this one? I don't think I know of a car that wants to rotate more splendidly on a trailing throttle. It's magnificent. So you can choose to have the systems on and it'll keep it neat and tidy for you, or give you that suggestion. But if you turn them off, around she comes. Ha ha! Of course, of no relevance in the real world, but who cares? What's going to go? I mean, I presume it'll. Oh yeah, there you go. Oh yes, yes, I really like the 570S, and it's got no differential, remember. It has no locking differential. Oh, well done, boys. Yes, the competition needs to properly watch out here, because this is a special car. What is the competition? I mean, this feels to me much more special than a 911 Turbo. That is just brilliant fun. Mega fun. Mega fun. Okay, so we've got a car that's comfortable and sensible on the road, and because McLaren's taken some grip away on the circuit, I'm sure it's much slower in terms of lap time than a 650, it's freed up this kind of character and personality. Wow, yes, yes! Right, I've got a bit of adrenaline floating through my veins after that. So final turn at Portimao, 4th gear, fully cranked over and sideways. That is no fault of the car, that's me being a yobbo, but that was a new tyre 3 corners before that. What a lovely way to summarise my thoughts on this fantastic little car. I think since the first time I drove the first of the modern McLarens, the 12C, I'd always wanted them to inject a sense of fun into proceedings. It wasn't about lap times and all the empirical stuff. I wanted a car that was just fun. You couldn't measure that in numbers, spreadsheets and what have you, and they've been getting there all the time. The P1, 675, 650. This is the summary of all of those thoughts, because it's not about lap times, but it is a fantastic car. It's up on its toes, it moves around, but it's also a lovely road car. So, do you know what? We have to start driving some cars that are bad, because all this good news is becoming a bit boring. But for now, from McLaren, this is very good news.